So good morning everyone and welcome to my Navigating Deep Waters video series. I'm Stephanie Kakris and today I'm very blessed to have the lovely Martha Clarke, who is from Ireland, as you will know as soon as she opens her mouth, and she's currently living in Oregon in the United States, and she is an astrology genius and has done a couple of astrology readings for me, and I asked her to come on and see if she had any insight into the craziness that we're all experiencing. So hi Martha.
Hi Stephanie, and thank you for the wonderful and warm introduction. It really means a lot to me because we've been working together for on and off for 3 years now, because I've had amazing life-changing sessions with you as well.
Thank you.
So you've encouraged me to keep all this simple, so I certainly intend to do that. And being a chatty Gemini, you probably know I could talk for 4 hours about what's going on, but I'm going to limit myself to 15 minutes. First of all, it was interesting to see the glitches we had trying to do this live on Facebook, and that's probably because Mercury is still in the post-shadow phase. And as you know, half my chart is ruled by Mercury, so I always get an inordinate number of glitches, so I kind of have backup after backup after backup.
So it was you.
Yeah, it tends to be me, and it tends to be me that triggers it in other people as well. Yes, I mean, it's been an extraordinary time, and as we know, we're living in extraordinary times. And as you know, I'm Irish, and as you know, I also lived in Italy for 2 years, so I've been watching events in Italy, with heart-rending dismay, and then watching my own Ireland being under lockdown as well. And now I'm broadcasting this in the United States, where people are kind of merrily going on as if nothing's happening. But this all basically goes back down to the Pluto-Saturn conjunction of the 12th of January of this year, which I did talk a lot about in any talk I gave in the Cape, where I lived for 1.5 years. So the last time we had Pluto and Saturn conjunct each other in Capricorn was in the 1500s. And that's when Martin Luther King broke away from the Catholic Church to form his own church. So Pluto, as you know, symbolized, death and power and destruction and abuse of power, but also standing in your power. And Saturn represents structure and routine and discipline. So basically what we've been seeing for the last couple of years has been the building to this crisis point. The crisis point hit on the 12th of January. And astrologers have been talking about world anarchy and world chaos as a possibility. But nobody really predicted that it was going to come in the form of a virus. And if you look back at what's happened globally since the 12th of January, Brexit was finally passed. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle up to move to Canada, thank you very much, and kind of said no, we're done with the monarchy, we're going to protect our family and put our family first. And I mean, it's been heart-rending to hear, all the negative stuff that's been written about them as a couple, because apart from the astrological aspects of how perfectly they picked Vancouver, because astrologically it's a perfect place for them both to live. People were, forgetting about the body language between them. I mean, just the body language between them as a couple, they just adore each other. They just want to live as family with their son.
Yeah.
That's all.
And who can blame
anybody for that?
To protect his wife and child, and not have what happened to her happen to his mother.
Yeah. And apparently he's quoted as saying a couple of years ago, basically nobody in the royal family wants to be king anymore. Thanks very much. Yeah. And then you look at the Queen at 93, she's very much in charge. Thanks very much. And whatever they've negotiated behind the scenes is probably a lot more amicable and cordial than the media was giving them credit for.
I believe too.
Yeah, and then, you look at, what some astrologers are now predicting in terms of that this virus is going to get worse before it gets better. And, Pluto and Saturn are conjunct each other. So it's the heightened peak of the abuse of power being brought to the surface. And anybody who's abused their power in any way is just being called out on it. We looked that Trump was finally impeached. Okay, he didn't have to resign. But now, I'm seeing it in America. It's, initially people are singing from their balconies to have a sense of community. In Ireland, little children are writing heart-rending letters to their grannies and to their neighbours asking, can they help them with anything? In America, people are continuing to stockpile, including medicines. I've been flat on my back with the flu and laryngitis here for the last 10 days. I went to my local supermarket and I got the last bottle of cough medicine. And I was told, oh, well, we're rationing it as best we can. We're limiting it to 3 bottles per person. And I'm kind of going, that's not right. you know, you're letting perfectly healthy people stockpile medicine while people that are ill can't get it.
It's true. I know of 2 people in Australia who are asthmatics.
Yeah.
They cannot get Ventolin at their chemist at the moment.
And that's wrong. So like what this is, I mean, this virus has brought us all to our knees. It's taught us all what's really important. What's really important is love, compassion, forgiveness, connection, helping each other, helping your neighbors, helping the elderly in particular. You know, because apparently what Italy didn't predict was that so many young people were going to be what they call vectors for carrying the virus. And apparently even when they closed the schools and universities, like, you know, the teenagers hung around in gang packs, which is what teenagers do in their local supermarkets and cafes. So like that was stopped in Ireland. So I mean, in some ways they have a more severe lockdown than they have in Italy because they've learned what didn't work in Italy. But going back to what's happening astrologically, you know, Mars is also conjunct Saturn until the 11th of April. So Mars for some people does indicate, you know, disease, and Mars is all about passion and drive and action. So if Mars is conjunct Saturn and Pluto, which it is until the 11th of April, we can expect this to keep rising and to keep reaching a peak until then. And then after that, we also have Jupiter conjunct Pluto and Saturn at the moment. And we have that until the 21st of December this year. Now, when the various planets go in retrograde, then they come out of conjunction, but then they go back into conjunction in a few weeks' time. So, you know, a lot of people are predicting that it's going to be at least 3 months before we know how this is all going to pan out. And that's very much the prediction that I'm going along with as well. You know, and then we're also seeing, I mean, I'm seeing horrendous things here, like, you know, 22 million American kids rely on American schools to be fed. I mean, that's horrendous. And you hear that there's no sick leave in America. I mean, you kind of know that Americans only get 2 weeks paid holidays. You don't know that there's no sick leave. The Irish government has introduced paid sick leave for everybody, irrespective of whether they were on the black economy or not last week. The Irish government has already introduced legislation where everybody is going to get unemployment benefit of at least the equivalent of $500 a week, effective now, irrespective of whether you were on the black economy, irrespective of whether you were an under the table childminder. And you see and this is going back to what Pluto and Saturn are bringing up. It's bringing up all this underbelly of society that actually don't have rights and entitlements. And Ireland is doing the right thing, saying it doesn't matter, we're giving you money anyway. 140,000 people lost their jobs in Ireland last week. Another 200,000 are going to lose their jobs this week. That's probably 20% of the population.
Yeah, and we've got similar numbers here, and we haven't even, like, we're probably at least 2 weeks behind what I think will be our peak. And I
was going to ask you that, because Australia is one country I haven't had a chance to keep up with because of the time difference.
Well, we had, you know, all of our arts and entertainment has all been pretty much cancelled. The comedy festival was cancelled. So that was 10,000 jobs just in, you know, staff there. Qantas has closed down. So that's 20,000 jobs in the next week that's going to be lost. And that's just, you know, that's just two sectors. And we're not even, you know, our kids are still at school and we're being encouraged to work from home. But apart from that, it's pretty much, most businesses are still open. You can still go to the shopping centres. You can still have dinner in a restaurant. They're just encouraging social distancing. But I think in a week from now, I think it will be very different.
And how old are your kids now?
11 and 15.
It's funny because all the people I've spoken to have kids in the same age range. And like, I kind of think if your kids are between the age of 10 to 14, it's not too bad because the teenage hormones, God bless them, haven't kicked in. They'll still pretty much do what you tell them, or you hope they will anyway.
And my kids are really good anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I've spoken to 4 or 5 people in the last couple of days whose kids are, whose kids are within that range, and they're grand. And I mean, I was watching a video.
Yeah. A lot of the private schools have closed already because our Easter break starts next Friday.
Yeah.
A lot of them have closed a week early.
Yeah.
I'm sure our public schools will close very soon anyway.
Yeah. I mean, in some states in America, they're talking about that they're closed till after Easter. And then other schools is like till the end of the year, and the end of the year is sometime in May or June. Again, there's a huge variation in America.
Yes.
But in Ireland, what they've done is like they're already making provisions for, like, you know, the leaving cert and how that's going to be set, because that's in June for 3 weeks. What they've done is they've brought their qualifying doctors immediately instead of waiting for their end of year exams, which would also be in May or June. They put a call out for anybody who feels they can help the health service to come forward. You know, there's stories of like 24 Irish people who left their jobs in Perth and flew back to help the Irish people. So I mean, like, when you hear stories like that, you kind of go, well, that's what matters. Because I mean, this is unparalleled in our, not just in our times, but in our history. This isn't like, you know, 9/11, where pretty much just America was affected, or where people gave up their jobs to go and help. This is completely the other way around.
Yeah, it's a real global, it's so, you know, you couldn't even imagine anything more global.
No.
Yeah, it feels like such a shake up of all the systems and of all the patterns and all the what's the word, the honor that comes with busyness and with materialism. I feel like that's all being shaken up. Is there anything in the planets that talks about like everyone slowing down? Because it's gonna, I feel like this is one of the keys, is that it's just gonna force everyone.
Well, I love that phrase. What you've just said is how much we honor our busyness. Like, I love that, like, because that's the one biggest thing it's causing us to do. It's causing us to, like, look inwards. You know what I mean? Saturn is moving into Aquarius in the next couple of weeks. So Saturn will be in Aquarius, and that will be having to change our thinking, because Saturn, as you know, it's discipline, routine, and structure. Aquarius, the Aquarian energy, it's fixed air, it's very slow moving, it's very slow to change its mind. I'm just bringing up the chart now on a larger level, because, you know, one of the notable features of the astrological chart last year was how little air there was in the chart. Like, the only time it was there in the chart was either when the sun or the moon was in an air sign. But it was very rare that more than 2 planets were in an air sign. So what we have today is we've got the moon and Ceres both in Aquarius, and they're actually conjunct each other. And Ceres is all about food. You know, Ceres is all about the, you know, how we nurture each other from the land. You know, the moon is more how we nurture ourselves emotionally. So, and because it's interesting that those planets are in Aquarius, because Aquarius is fixed air. So it's very much, how do we nourish ourselves mentally? How do we stay connected? You know, because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. So the higher vibration of Uranus is like, you know, genius and innovation and eclectic and doing things differently. So how many of us are turning to social media? You know, and if you look at people in the therapeutic or the holistic industry, in theory, those people should be busier than ever, because people now have time to sit at home and work on their issues. You know, you hear in America,
in terms of that innovation, I did an interview with Yolanda on Wednesday where she did some voice channeling. She channels the spirit energy.
Oh, wow.
And what came through was that there's a lot of spiritual guidance to help us to innovate. And to completely rethink the way that we're living and the way that we're doing things, because we're being forced to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you know, astrologers have been predicting, you know, when the Pluto-Saturn conjunction hits, exactly, we're going to be brought to our knees. And we are. The whole world is being brought to our knees. We just didn't know in what way it was going to happen. We didn't know, was it going to be Trump causing World War III? We didn't know, was it going to be, you know, a mass famine in China? It ended up being a virus. You know, and corona stands for, you know, the crown, and virus stands for poison. So it's the poisoned crown is what it means in Latin. So it's like everything poisonous about our society is just being expelled. Any corruption that anybody is doing has been seen for what it is. I mean, I've seen so many heartwarming stories here. I met a guy last week who's an acupuncturist, and he's got a client who's 85, and the client texted him saying, like, I better not come in. Would you like me to pay you for the session anyway? You know, I mean, you hear that 70% of Americans live from paycheck to paycheck. You don't know how many Americans have what they call 401ks, and maybe a lot of them might have 20,000 stashed away, but they make out as if they're living from paycheck to paycheck. So it's kind of like people who, and this is where Tash, you know, in the Heart Center group that we're both a member of, I mean, she's just led so much by example. I mean, she's done some wonderful broadcasts in the last 2 or 3 days saying, you know, look, you need to look after your existing clients. Why slash your prices for your new clients? Your existing clients on payment plans, they might be struggling. They might be afraid to ask. Do the decent thing, give them a more reduced payment plan than you planned. So there's so many people out there, and interestingly enough, I mean, from what I've seen, it's mostly women that are being the leaders in that. It's women, and it's also women afraid to step up and to be seen to be greedy, to be wanting to still earn money in the times we're in. But in reality, it's like, all we can do is to step up, as to be as big as we can, as strongly as we can, in as global a way as we can.
Exactly. And we've got to be encouraged to continue to promote our services and to keep the economy moving. I mean, if everyone shuts down, then, people who can work and can sell and can provide service need to continue to do that, because there are so many people, like a plumber, like a hairdresser, if they're in lockdown, they can't work. So, we need to keep working if we can, because then if we earn money, we spend money, and things can still go around. So I think that's a really important point, because there are a lot of people that might be feeling a bit shy or a bit afraid about, selling, because it feels like really a bit wrong or whatever. But no, we need to keep our businesses ticking over.
I mean, what I heard in Ireland was hairdressers are actually the most affected, because they can't do social distancing. They can't do their work if they're 6 foot away from somebody. No. So every hairdressing salon in Ireland is closed, and a lot of them may not open. Or you hear about the airlines. People think the airlines have millions behind them. They actually don't, because they all do all this code sharing, or they're all borrowing planes from each other. Yes. I mean, the airline industry is going to be transformed beyond anything we expected. And then you hear that, the canals in Venice are clean for the first time in decades. That's wonderful. You hear people in China can see the sky and can see the birds. That's beautiful. It's like, it's kind of brought global warming. I mean, global warming has been such a big part of human consciousness for so long, and yet so many of us have been ignoring it. I mean, like, what good is any of us if we're all like, sitting alone in our houses, like, and we've stockpiled 3 months of food? Like, what good is that to anybody? Right. So again, it's interesting, because, the moon is in Aquarius as we're speaking, and, the sun is in Pisces, but the sun will be moving into Aries in the next couple of days. But, the sun is conjunct Chiron at the moment. So, like, we're at the peak of the wound, because Chiron is all about our wound. And it's all about, like, what wounds we have that we need to go forth to heal others. I mean, somebody put a very funny quip on Facebook yesterday about, like, the water signs are all crying about it. The earth signs are all stockpiling food. The fire signs are rushing in and out, helping as many people as they can. And then the air signs are like, maintaining social connection by chatting to people 6 feet apart. And I think that's all very, very true.
Yes. So we need to finish up. Is there anything that you want to say just to...
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm open for consultations, and I will be reducing my prices to help as many people as possible. I'm not sure by how much. I haven't decided that yet. I'm taking Tasha's guidance very seriously. So my website is marthaclarkeastrology.com, and my email is info@marthaclarkeastrology.com. And thank you very much for giving me the chance to connect and to help as many people as I can, because the worst thing we can do is panic. And I would agree with what you said, is we need to keep running our businesses. We need to keep showing up. We need to be more flexible than ever.
Yes.
We need to be leaders in this. Like, we're both members of a group that has 32,000 members. If those 32,000 members affect 10 people, that's 320,000 people in the next couple of weeks,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, if you're looking for some personalised guidance to find out what your own personal planets are doing, because, of course, in times of crisis for some, it can actually be a time where other people are really destined to thrive. And so if you're feeling like the call where it's time for you to step up as a leader, or if you're feeling like really afraid and really worried about, doom and gloom, and that, your life is, as you know it, is going to end, and you need some guidance around the time frames around that kind of thing, I would definitely recommend that you get in touch with Martha. Send her a message via her Facebook page, which is Martha Clarke Astrology, because she's really good at what she does. And one thing I love about it is that she uses plain, simple language with the astrology, and can translate it well into practical steps and guidance for you. So thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us and providing some insight. It's so interesting, and I'm continuing, you know, sometimes I get scared and sometimes I get sucked in. I'm trying to be the observer, and I'm trying to watch it all unfold and be curious about, and I encourage everyone to be curious about the gifts that are going to come out of this. So
yeah, that's what we're going to remember. Like what I will remember till the day I die is, like, you know, the Italians singing on their balconies.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you again
soon. Thanks. Take care, Stephanie. Thank you so much for having me. Love to everybody in Australia.